Why should I feel discouraged? Why should the shadows come? Why should my heart be lonely and long for heaven and home when Jesus is my portion, my constant friend is He. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches me. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches me. Let not your heart be troubled. His tender words I hear, and resting on His goodness, I lose my doubts and fears. Though by the path He leadeth, but one step I may see. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches me. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches me. I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches me. I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches me.
LERIS gave me a choice in his scripture reading to read either an entire chapter or just most of it. So I'm going to read the entire one, otherwise I'll get confused. It's about, it's a story that you all know very well. So here we go. Now the Lord, just if you want to follow along, it's Exodus chapter 14. I know I could feel that. You know, my wife often tells me, I'm not a mind reader. Now the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the children of Israel that they turn and camp before Pi-hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea, opposite Baal-zephon, and you shall camp before it by the sea. For Pharaoh will say of the children of Israel, they are bewildered by the land. The wilderness has closed them in. Then I will harden Pharaoh's heart, so that he will pursue them, and I will gain honor over Pharaoh and over all his army, that the Egyptians may know that I am the Lord. And they did so. Now it was told the king of Egypt that the people had fled, and the heart of Pharaoh and his servants was turned against the people, and they said, "Why have we done this, that we have let Israel go from serving us?" So he made ready his chariot and took his people with him. Also he took 600 choice chariots, and all the chariots of Egypt with captains over every one of them. And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh of Egypt, and he pursued the children of Israel, and the children of Israel went out with boldness. So the Egyptians pursued them, all the horses, men, and his army, and overtook them camping by the sea of Pi Hahiroth before Baal Zephon. And when Pharaoh drew near, the children of Israel lifted their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians marched after them. So they were very afraid, and the children of Israel cried out to the Lord. Then they said to Moses, "Because there were no graves in Egypt, have you taken us away to die in the wilderness? Why have you so dealt with us to bring us up out of Egypt? Is this not the word that we told you in Egypt, saying, 'Let us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians'? For it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than that we should die in the wilderness." And Moses said to the people, "Do not be afraid. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. He will accomplish for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today you shall see again no more forever. The Lord will fight for you. You shall hold your peace." And then the Lord said to Moses, "Why do you cry to me? Tell the children of Israel to go forward. But lift up your rod and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it, and the children of Israel shall go on dry ground through the midst of the sea. And I indeed will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, and they shall follow them. So I will gain honor over Pharaoh and over all his army, his chariots and his horsemen. Then the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, when I have gained honor for myself over Pharaoh, his chariots, and his horsemen." And the angel of God who went before the camp of Israel moved and went behind them. And the pillar of cloud went before them and stood behind them. So it came between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel. Thus it was a cloud and darkness to the one, and it gave light by night to the other, so that the one did not come near the other all that night. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea into dry land, and the waters were divided. So the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea on dry ground, and the waters were a wall to them on their right hand and on their left. And the Egyptians pursued and went after them into the midst of the sea, all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, his horsemen. Now it came to pass in the morning watch that the Lord looked down upon the army of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and the cloud, and he troubled the army of the Egyptians, and he took off their chariot wheels, so that they drove them with difficulty. And the Egyptians said, "Let us flee from the face of Israel, for the Lord fights for them against the Egyptians." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, that the waters may come back upon the Egyptians, on their children, on their horsemen." And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and when the morning appeared, the sea returned to its full depth, while the Egyptians were fleeing into it. So the Lord overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea. Then the waters returned and covered the chariots, the horsemen, and all the army of Pharaoh that came into the sea after them. Not so much as one of them remained. But the children of Israel had walked on dry land and in the midst of the sea, and the waters were a wall to them on their right hand and on their left. So the Lord saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. Thus Israel saw the great work which the Lord had done in Egypt. So the people feared the Lord and believed the Lord and his servant Moses.
Friends, good morning. The title of this sermon is Facing the Red Sea. I had a friend, his name was Bill. He was getting closer to his retirement, counting down. 3 more years to go. 2 more years. The last year for him to retire, he received a call from his doctor. You have to come in. It's urgent. You need to have surgery. Heart problem. You need to have bypass, 4 of them, in order for him to survive. Him, as a believer, called the church for prayer. He tried to put it off, hoping for a miracle. The doctor told him, the longer you wait, the bigger the risk. He's still hoping that God will come through for him. Finally, he has to face reality. He has to face reality. He called the doctor to make the appointment. But before he went, he called all of his friends. He said, you know what? The surgery could go either way. I love you. If there's anything that I did to you, forgive me. Pray for me. He went to the doctor for the surgery. The doctors get everything done, getting ready, wash their hands, put on their coats. He told the doctor, wait a minute. I invited my doctor to come over to do the surgery. His doctor said, wait a minute. I thought I was doing the surgery. He said, you are. But I invited my God to be with you to do the surgery. He hold their hands and pray. Then he said, I'm ready for the surgery. Friends, Red Sea can be anything. Difficulties, hardship, problems, things that we cannot do ourselves. When we face the Red Sea, we feel like we are limited. The Israelites were in bondage for so many years. The time has come for them to be freed. As a side note, this chapter is one of my favorite chapters. The reason why, when I'm going through hardship, I like to read it to see where I am in that story. Does that make sense? It's one of my favorite. The Israelites, the time has come for them to be freed. All excited, looking for the promised land. They thought that everything they have lived, they have seen the worst. Now it's time for them to live their life, to do whatever they want to do. Come out of Egypt, what they see to them is the worst. The enemy is behind them, chasing them. While they were running, they come to a point, to a dead spot. They cannot go any longer. Dead hand. Can't go back. What do? Here's the sea right there. Many of them can't swim, including me. What do? The enemies are closing in. Friends, when you face a Red Sea, problems, it's real. The enemy is real. The problems is real. When you face the enemy, the Red Sea, the first thing that might come is fear. All you see is the problem, bigger than you. You cannot go around it. You have to face it. It doesn't matter if you go to sleep trying to avoid it, it's right there. Lose sleep over it, it's right there. There's nothing that you can do. One of the things that I like about that story, to begin throughout the story, God is right there. It's right there. First thing that the angel did, there was a separation between the Egyptian and God's people. On one side, there was darkness and clouds. On the other side, there was light. Separation. What does that tell me, friends? Sometimes when we are going to hardship, to trials, we might feel like in the wilderness we are by ourselves. Nobody's around. We might feel lonely, separated from other people. We are in it by ourselves. Throughout those trials, God separated them for a reason. Just like when we face the Red Sea, God separated us from the world for a reason. Does that make sense? The only way for us to know the reason why is to go through the Red Sea for us to know why we are going through it. When the people feared the enemy, they couldn't go nowhere. Stop complaining. Was that any grave over there? You know how it is. When you don't see any result, any hope in your problems, we start talking crazy, including me. Sometimes people might doubt our relationship with the Lord. That's normal, friends. Fear. When we feared, we cry out for help. That's what they did. Help us. You bring us here. You take us to a route that's longer, abnormal. We could have gone this way, but no, the long route. Look where we end up, in front of the Red Sea. Look like all hope is gone. Same like for my friend Bill. He was facing the Red Sea. Could go either way. Crying out for help. Seems like prayer did not work. He was hoping for a miracle. Try to extend it. When you cry, God answers. God told Moses, what do you have in your hand? Provision. When you are in the wilderness, friends, when you face the Red Sea, you're not there for any reason. Say it this way. You are in front of the Red Sea. God said, raise your hand. Next thing you know, dry land. You have a choice to make. Am I gonna trust him? When the sea departed, it's all about surrendering. Anything can go. Just, do I believe him? God was calling them in a deeper relationship. For them, they thought it was for freedom. In reality, to know God. They heard about him. They heard what he did in Egypt. The 10 plagues. They heard about it. But see themselves experience it? No. This is the time for them to live it, to experience it, to know who their God is. When they face the Red Sea, this is the time for me to know who God is when I face my difficulties, my problems. That was the time for Bill. He talked about God all the time, hoping for a miracle. The miracle did not come. Not what he expected. He has to go through it. I love you, my brother. I'll see you again. Either here or there. That was his word. I'll see you. Friends, when we go to trials, here's the lesson. Trials or Red Sea, difficulties, always have a lesson in it. It's how we see it while we are going through it. For the people, for the Israelites, it was for them to know God in another level. They had to go through it. They had to go through it so the Egyptian knows who their God is. They had to go through it for his glory. It wasn't easy for them. It was not easy for Bill. It will not be easy for you and me. But we have to go through it for His glory. We cry out because we know that He is able. We cry out because we know that we are limited. We could not go around it. The Red Sea. Friends, after the surgery, Bill's message to everybody: God is able. Everywhere he goes, God is able. If God had performed a miracle, there's no way Bill could have known God in that level. If God did not bring the Israelites in front of the Red Sea, they would have heard about what he did. But experiencing him themselves, no. Sometimes going to the Red Sea can be as scary, if you will, as standing in front of it. Once again, can go either way. The Egyptian tried to follow. What happened to them? Drown. Don't do what I do. I know where I stand. That's what they said. The Israelite. Don't follow me. My God opened the pathway for us. The pathway is not for you. It's for us. It's our way of deliverance. Here they are, the Egyptians. Try to follow them. Yes, she is. Are you an Egyptian? Don't follow me. Just joking. The Egyptian tried to follow them, thinking they can take a free ride. God said no. Once again, separation. God separate his people from the world. All we have to do, just surrender. That's what they had to do. His people. When they face the Red Sea. That's what Bill had to do. He had to make up his mind. I'm going for the surgery. It wasn't easy. It's not easy. It will not be easy. When you face a problem, difficulties, whatever it might be, the most important thing is to have someone you can call upon when you face those problems, difficulties. The Israelite called on God. He was right there. Bill called on God. He was right there. He's doctor. LERIS, you need to call on him. So this morning, I don't know what you are facing. I don't know where you are right now in your trials. It could be you are right in the middle of the Red Sea. It could be right now you are going through dry land. If you are, make sure he got the glory. That's the reason. Friends, have you ever looked back and see God's hands in things that you yourself were not able to do? Dry land. Dry land. As we close, I've been through many Red Seas, many difficulties. I've cried out to him. He answered. God has placed many people on my path. Sometimes when I'm scared or feared, if you will, can't sleep, need someone to talk to, I call on brothers to help me. Pray for me. I'm facing something that's bigger than me. The Red Sea. When you hear friends, families, I'm praying for you. I'm praying for you. Feels good. When you see the pathway, dry lands, you know that it's God. Not me. Not you. Let's stand and sing the last song. If you are facing the Red Sea this morning, there is hope. All you have to do, cry out to him.